Hello, how are you today? Welcome to another live chat of the marketing show. So, as promised, we said on Fridays we were going to have a live session about the marketing trends, and that obviously includes digital. So, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about podcasting because I've very recently discovered it is great. I am a podcast listener myself. My favorite one, and that's how I actually got introduced into this world and into the whole world of entrepreneurship, is Tim Ferriss and his show. He basically interviews world-class performers, and he learns all the techniques and tools of how they've become successful. And I just love him. I feel I'm like he's my best friend, and I really want to go to US just to meet him. So that's the kind of relationship you create with someone who is behind a podcast. But anyway, I was very recently, and that was like 2 days ago, invited to do a podcast. And this podcast is run by Andrew Levin. He's running a very cool podcast called Speak Up for Blue. It's all about our oceans and how we can take care of them. So we agreed that we were going to run a session where I could talk about all the different brands that we're doing a great job in conserving the ocean. Okay, Andrew Levin is in this group. So, hi Andrew, thank you for the podcast. It's amazing. I'm very soon going to share that across social media, especially at Our Good Brands, because that's from the, I was talking about brands and all that different, like how they were, different brands were doing a very good job when it comes to conserving the ocean. So I'm going to share that across those social media accounts. If you're not following them yet, so you're more than welcome to join. But anyway, before we jumped into the podcast with Andrew, he basically explained why podcasts are great. And we had a very nice conversation, and he basically explained that there's this super show somewhere in the US that I haven't looked into. But I think it's called Social Media Examiner. And apparently they did a test, and they did a live chat on Facebook. And they had quite a lot, because they're big, of listeners or people engaging in that live chat. But then they put that on YouTube, and apparently they had, I'm not sure if they had more or less, but then they converted that into an audio, and they had so much more reach. So that tells you a lot already about why people are now more attracted to listening instead of watching. So here is some data that I've put together for you on why podcast is great and it's growing. And for example, this is data from Australia. Because I'm based here, and I was listening to someone that was sharing data from Australia, and I think that's more or less could be a good comparative with many other countries. And apparently 89% of the people in Australia know what a podcast is. And then 58% of the people have at least once in their lifetime listened to a podcast awesome. And then when we come to how many people have listened to a podcast in the last month, then we find out that in Australia it's a 29%, in the US it's a 26%. So the whole point here is that the numbers are very high, right? So if you, for example, compare a podcast with blogs, with videos, okay? So you'll find that a podcast is a way less competitive environment. There are 200,000 active podcasts, but then we have 19 million active blogs. That's a lot. And then 1 billion of YouTube users. So I think if I could, I'll go for podcast. And then how many people do we have listening to or in the audience of each of them? 98 million of people are listening to podcasts. 409 million people have viewed more than 23 billion of pages each month. And then 4.95 billion of videos have been watched on YouTube every single day. So yes, definitely the figures are higher for YouTube or for bloggers, for blogs, but the competence is way lower. So I think the best niche nowadays is podcast in that sense. But now, what is the growth of podcasts each year? So between 2015 and 2016, there was a 23% of growth just in listeners. And then since 2013, 75%, there's been a 75% of monthly growth when it comes to podcast listeners. And a 36% of the population worldwide is listening to podcasts. These data, the sources are from HubSpot, statisticbrain.com, and also some YouTube statistics. So anyway, this shared, now I'm going to tell you why podcast is great. So, first of all, because it tells you a story. So, seems that nowadays all those videos and blogs, they also tell you a story. Of course, that's the whole point of content. But the way it's told right from your mouth, and there's no editing involved. And so there's so much more authenticity in creating a podcast and in the way that story is told. Also, it creates intimacy, and the reason why it creates intimacy, it's because so people are listening to it while they're showering, while they're driving their car, while they're doing sport, while they're cleaning the house, or while they're cooking. So they basically attach one activity in their daily lives, a habit, to listening to a podcast. Okay, in that sense too. Podcast is a very passive way of consuming content because it doesn't require full attention, okay? And there's also why it's creating this intimacy and it's so engaging, okay? It feels like the person that is behind the podcast, you know that person. It feels like you've engaged without even like having contact with that person. And that also happens, like, for example, if you are on social media and you are on Instagram, especially, people are sharing their lives and their stories every day. And that's where, that's the whole point, where you feel like you have met this person. But that's the support of image. The great thing is that just by listening to someone, the audio, you can already feel like you know them without even like see the person behind it, without touching the person, right? And that's quite great. Why is also great? Our podcast is great because it is a very digestible type of content. It takes usually each chapter is around 30 minutes, and you can listen it on stream right from the website. You can set it up on your phone with RSS. You can download it on your iTunes, or you can just download it right on your phone in the case you know that you're not going to finish to listen to a podcast, but you really love it and you want to go back to it later on. Also, it is great. Podcasts are great because, and they're also better than radio because you choose your topic. So if you're very interested in learning to improve your marketing skills, then you're going to probably listen to a chapter that is about marketing or a channel that it's all about marketing. Also, it's quite interesting the fact that there's no fake news behind podcasts unless they tell you this is all about fake news. No, these news are generally very genuine, and also they're not influenced by advertisers or politicians or even brands that are paying huge amounts of money. They're influencing the agenda of the news. You as a podcaster, you choose what you're going to talk about and you stick with it. And then eventually you can invite to come along brands or leaders, but they're going to talk about something right from their mouth, so they're going to be honest about it. Okay? So what else is... podcast is great because you're going to have a strong relationship with them and you're going to grow your audience faster. So if, for example, you have a brand, okay, and let's say you have a beauty brand and you create your own recipes for your beauty products and you have a lot of things to talk about because you know everything about it. So you're going to do a podcast about a different range of topics, and you will put out yourself as an expert in the sector. And so if people are going to buy of a beauty brand over all of them, probably they're going to choose yours because you're telling them all the steps that involve in creating that beauty product. So think about it. Even if you're just a brand that is doing whatever, it has a restaurant, you are delivering technology for businesses, you have a clothing store and you want to talk about all the different brands in your store, all the different garments, all the different agenda. So all the agenda and the different events that are happening in your city or all over the world. I mean, there are endless possibilities. Why is podcast also great? Because you can monetize it. You can get advertisers. You can have affiliate links. And that means you can just, personalize. So for example, Tim Ferriss, he's an affiliate for audiobooks because he writes books. It makes a lot of sense, right? So I think it's like he will personalize his link and give you like a 10% discount if you go to the link that is audiobook.com/Tim. So if you click that, you're going to get a 10% out of the whatever subscription or whatever book you're going to buy, and he's going to make money out of it. So also, of course, always the best way of doing affiliate is to be very honest about it. And then you can also become an influencer in the sector. So brands might want to pay you to mention them, right? So it's a different way of doing advertising. Podcast is also great because you will have an audio that then you can repurpose for your blogging. So that means you're going to have two types of content, and you just really have to do the work once. There are quite a large amount of tools that you can use to transcribe this content, and I've recently discovered a very cool one that it's just on Google Docs. So if you just want to transcribed content, you just need to put your headphones on. There's an option that you can just say transcribe, or that it comes from your audio, and then you're talking and everything is transcribing. Pretty cool. So that's also why, because it's quite a it becomes a very scalable way of you making an income or growing your business, not just because of your listeners, but because you can repurpose your content, and because you can touch like a whole range of topics. So if someone is just interested in creating their own like cleaning products, and you have whatever zero waste e-commerce that sells all those different tools for you to have have a zero waste life, people are going to listen to how to do those recipes, but then they're also going to think of you first if they have to purchase zero waste products. Then also it's scalable because it doesn't have a caducity. So people can listen to that podcast at any time, any day of the year. It's never really out of date. Okay, I'm going to talk about this podcasting thing today, but that you can watch it again, or in the case of a podcast, they're going to really look into it by topic and not so much when it was created. Of course, the date of creation is relevant because it's going to be on the top, but it doesn't go against that people will have the chance to listen to it at any time. So that was all of it when it comes to podcasting today, and that's the trend to 2019 trend that you should be engaging into, and I am sure I'm going also to engage into this trend in the upcoming month. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the session of the day. Let me know if you already have a podcast or if you're interested in creating one, because I can introduce you to the right people. And then don't forget to invite all your friends to this channel and to this group if you're on Facebook, or subscribe to this channel if you are watching me from YouTube. Thank you so much and have a super great day. And I'll see you tomorrow with some questions that I will be asking you. And please tell me what you want to learn, because I'm going to deliver what you need. All right, be awesome and take care.